Fine, okay. So did you audible, Nikita? Now you try. Anybody will volunteer? और आगे बैठने में प्रॉब्लम है कोई? अच्छा नहीं होती. I'm just asking, right? Sometimes we have the habit of sitting in the back bench. Throughout my engineering, everywhere I sat at the back bench. More safe place, है ना? Anybody can tell me, state why we did a discussion on that? What you are going to study, right? Whatever the subject you are going to study, it has a domain, right? It has a boundary. That boundary is defined by the political system. So whatever you are going to study in public administration cannot be understood without the boundary in which it exists. It is one of the most easiest subject, I'm telling you. It has a very limited theoretical base. Unlike sociology, Paul science, Aristotle, Plato, ये PubMed बहुत logical subject, right? That is why it is the easiest subject. Problem is, we are not accustomed to doing things logically, right? We are looking for guide notes since our class 1, right? Third class का बच्चा भी tuition जाता है, सोचो तो. I'm seeing small children going to tuitions. Imagine. So obviously, how their logical thinking will be developed. So that is why don't ever think this is the easiest subject. It is borrowing knowledge from various disciplines. And it does not want you to specialize in those subjects. So polity का एक part है, right? But specialize नहीं है, simple है. Why? Public administration, the focus of the study will be within the boundary of political system. So from political science, we are borrowing some knowledge so that we can understand the public administration better, right? Public administration obviously means the system of government. So automatically the study of government becomes important. But what aspect? Only the aspect which is needed for us. We are not concerned about what Aristotle says, what Plato says. We are not concerned about that. We simply want to say that there is a government system. What is it? It's a political system. Why it is important? Because it decides what is to be done in the society. So what do we do as PubMed? We do what has been decided by them. So technically they are our bosses, right? They are the heads under which an administration has to work. That is why we need to know them very little, right? Then financial administration, economics. Administration cannot function without money. So there is a need for using resources to achieve the goals we want. So we study one part of economics, that is budgeting, little bit of financial administration. See, so the subject is like a salad bowl. It has everything. You don't have to specialize in anything. Okay. It is a pure generalist subject. The generalist subject क्या होता है? See, by common sense understanding, you can write the answers. But common sense is highly uncommon. That is a problem, right? So we think nahi. Easiest subject, simplest. We just have to catch one idea, move forward with that idea. Right? We should not lose track of that idea. Subject is very simple. Right? So state क्यों पढ़ा? Because state is the boundary within which our study is confined. Right? So how we define state now? Correct. It's a political entity which deals with power. Yes. Anything that has to be done in the society, any change which has to be brought, can only be brought about by power. This you agree? How that power should be used, that is also very important. So there is a system of power, but how this power will be used, that becomes, or that makes the study more interesting. Will it be used by a monarch? Will it be used by an autocrat? Will it be used by a democratic system? See? So we also intend to know, we also want to understand that how this power can be used more efficiently for people, for society. So we use the term that we moved from citizens, from subjects to citizens. This is a very important change for you. So today when you say, I can enjoy my fundamental rights, as a subject, you cannot say you can enjoy your fundamental rights because there are no fundamental rights available to subjects. So see, whatever has changed from traditional to modern, that has made people more empowered. So the more empowered you are, right, the better use of power will take place in the society. So see, if king can use the power arbitrarily, then you don't have power. Right? If the government starts using the power in a more constructive manner, in a more respectful manner, right, in a more positive way, then you have more power. Try to understand. This is the relationship we want to know. What happens if the state exercises power and people can control this exercise of power, right? So if people can control, it is the modern system, what we call as democracy. If people can't control, then these are more traditional systems where power is captured by one person or a group. So see, transition from Rex Lex to Lex Rex. You have become citizens now. See? So state, right, because it is a political system, it's an entity, right? Generally, when we think of state, right, we think of three organs, which is again a modern understanding. So in today's world, when we say, what is a state, right, it's a political entity. It uses power for the benefit of society, right? How the state is recognized today internationally. Like I said, post Second World War, we created international institutions. There were several purposes for that. One was obviously to remove any kind of conflicts in future. So United Nations now defines a state. Why this definition is important? What are the elements of that definition? That anything which will be recognized as a political entity globally, internationally, right, will have a defined territory, a defined population, sovereignty, rule of law, and acceptable form of government, right? These four things are mandatory for you to be recognized, right, internationally. Now, there are several countries which do not have these features. Obviously, they are not recognized as state, right? So every country, yes, you'll study in polity if your teacher teaches you properly, right? That there are several states, right, which are technically not recognized or they do not have legal status in terms of international relation, in terms of international recognition, right? Does the Islamic world recognize Israel? Right? PLA, Palestinian Liberation Authority, is it a state? See, so when you occupy, we'll talk about, so this is all general studies problem, right? So when you talk about these things, or when you recognize yourself as a state, you start getting a lot of benefits internationally. Right? If United Nations initiates a development program, then it will offer you, okay, we are initiating this development program. Would you like to be part of it? Right? Because you are recognized state, you will get certain benefits from us. IMF, International Monetary Fund. So if developed countries try to manipulate the developing countries, but you are recognized, then you can raise this complaint, right, to these global bodies and say that my rights should be protected. So obviously you get a lot of benefits because of this status, right? But at the same time, obviously every country, every nation in this world, or every political entity in this world may not be a state, right? But it can be a nation. Now there is another concept called nation. Right? Today we are talking about Bharat, right? So Bharat is more like a concept of nation, right, rather than a state. Are you getting this point? Okay. Debate पढ़ा है? So if I say Article 1 of the Indian Constitution, right? Article 1 of the Indian Constitution says India, that is Bharat, right, shall be, right? The word shall makes it what? Rigid. It will be. Even will not should not be used. It has to be. There is no other option. So shall means must, mandatory. So India, that is Bharat, shall be union of state. What does this mean? India, that is Bharat. Prominence किसको है statement में? You know at least English language, you know, right? So you can say what is the subject of the statement? India है या भारत है? See, you read again. India, that is Bharat. So what is primary? What is supreme? Bharat, not India. क्योंकि इंडिया भी तो भारत है. भारत इंडिया है कि इंडिया जो भारत है? अपोजिट है. यस. हाँ, दैट इज नहीं, सेम नहीं. फाइन. मैंगोज आर ऑरेंजेस, राइट? All mangoes are oranges, right? All mangoes are oranges, right? That means every mango is an orange. Every mango is an orange. Some oranges are mangoes, right? Few oranges are mangoes. None of the oranges are mangoes. ये कैसे सही होगा? CSAT paper you have to give. See? When I say India, that is Bharat. तो अगर मैं उसको इंडिया बुलाऊं, पैन इंडिया बुलाऊं, नॉन इंडिया बुलाऊं, जो भी बुलाऊं, अल्टीमेटली जो होगा वो भारत है. So I'm not saying that India is subsumed in Bharat, but I'm simply saying that whenever I refer to something as India, it actually means Bharat. Hindi mein when we are converting in jo ki hai, right? So if you understand that Hindi terminology, that itself will mean कि भाई यहाँ पे भी भारत ही primary है. So why whatever new name we refer to, what we are referring to is the original idea. What is the original idea? That is Bharat. But Bharat in no way signifies that ancient Bharat. It's not signifying that. Right? If we interpret this statement, right, Bharat reflects even though we say कि भाई India comes from the word Indus, and it has a reference to what? It has a reference to a region, right? To a region. Indus के इधर जो भी है वो India है. So because they could not pronounce properly Sindhu, sir, right? Sindhu civilization. What is it? The Indus Valley civilization. Right? So that is why they started using the word her, Hindu. So it can also mean to a race, refer to a race, right? The population that exists beyond this. Right? So now it is up to us how we are going to interpret all this. But the constitution makers had used this term obviously to signify that this is, which is more like a legal term, right? So when I say, okay, my household name is what, my pet name is this, fine. So we can also say, na, कि भाई Mannu matlab Manoj. Huh? It can be like that, right? So Mannu arthat Manoj, in Hindi we use that word. Alias this, right? Upnam, pet name, household name, common name. See, so whenever you are saying कि by what name should legally the world know us? Let's say generally we call India or Republic of Bharat. That also we can use, right? And by what name should our culture be visible? So this is our legal name, right? And this is our cultural name. Cultural name is also equally important because it reflects something very unique and peculiar, distinct from others. Understanding? So we can say there's nothing like official name, right? But we use the Bharat ka Ganraj. You understand? Hindi, Republic of Bharat. So it does not connote any cultural influence, or sorry, religious influence or historical influence. It is only referring to something which is what you can say an intermix of various cultures. So the word Bharat is not referring to Bharat, and it is not specifically referring to a particular religion. That is the incorrect. Right? But yes, it refers to culture. अब culture क्या हमारा? Diverse culture है हमारा. We do not have monoculture. हमारा कोई single culture नहीं है. हमारा तो diverse culture है. So Bharat would mean what? The different cultural identities that exist within this territory. So see, you can understand, interpret the things as you want, right? But see, when you say state, state is more about legal aspect. Okay, by what is India? By India is a state because it satisfies these four features. So legally, the identity of this country, right, or this territory would be established for the international purpose as the Indian state. But what if I want to say ki how Indians are? Right? What traditions and customs Indian follow? How can we distinguish the values, belief, faith, right, thinking, ideology of the people who live in this state? Right? So see how to distinguish one state from another state in terms of different values which they have, in terms of different habits, traditions which they have, language, right, clothing, many things. So obviously I can say that by the eating habit of Pakistan, or eating habit of Bangladesh and eating habits of India are different. So what is that eating habit? It's part of culture. Food habit different, clothing different. See, so when we use the word nation, the word nation is referring to this cultural aspect, the distinctive features, social traditions, customs, practice, right, uniqueness that we have in terms of our belief, traditions, habits, many things. So if you say somebody, when you go to outside India and you see somebody spitting on the wall, right, instantly you can say, yeah, Indian hai, eh? Throwing garbage on the road. See? So we have some cultural habits which make us distinct from the others. That is what nation is. So we use the word nation, state. State एक international legal definition है, right? Nation is our unique cultural identity. So our both elements are there. We are a nation also, we are a state also, right? In terms of culture and diversity, we are very unique, very different from rest of the world, right? You have understood this nation and state. So see, this is how we use this term. Is India a state? Yes, it is. Is India a nation? Yes, it is. Is India a nation state? Yes, it is. And so most of the countries in the world which are in political boundary, which have some political boundary, right, which recognize themselves as a country. Country word basically comes from community, rural, right? So every country in this world, right, will have something unique about itself. Location, people, race, ethnicity, right? But it's not necessary it will be distinct from the others. So we use the word Indian curry, right? Why don't we use it Pakistani curry? No, but see, that means the curry is peculiar to India, or it is visible in every country of the world. Right? It has a distinct taste, distinct flavor. So we are using that word Indian curry, right? In UK, USA, wherever you go, right? They popularly know Indian dishes mostly as Indian curry. So that is having a very peculiar or distinct type of taste. That is why you are recognized throughout the world with this specific. Let's say you started wearing a dhoti. It's not that dhoti is not worn anywhere. It's worn in many other countries of the world. Thailand में भी धोती पहनते हैं, Mauritius में भी धोती पहनते हैं. But see, the moment you say talk about dhoti or angvastram, so you talk about South India, right? They distinctively use it, right? That makes them very peculiar. So every country in this world has some community. That community has certain distinct features. But is it so distinct that it can be called as nation? No. There may be many cultures which will be just outcome of Indian culture. Let's say India captures a territory, right? Owns it for 20, 50 years. It influences its own culture there and then moves out. So that particular territory, even though it may have become independent today, it does not enjoy its distinct culture. It's just an offshoot, a spillover, a consequence of Indian culture. So हर country भी nation नहीं है, हर country भी state नहीं. See, अब ये सब typical concepts है, right? But not everything is needed by you. Only in prelims you might require all this, right? But in general, you understand why there is nation, state, because we are talking about a culture and a legal identity. Right? So see, state is defined in various ways. Today, when we talk about state, we refer to a democratic state. What is a democratic state? A democratic state is a kind of political system in which there is prominent role of citizens. Citizens can directly impact the state and its functioning, right? So democracy valuable है नहीं है, required है नहीं है. You value democracy or not? But you have never lived in democracy. You have. Your ancestors haven't. Right? 600-700 years. monarchical rule, colonial rule. So where are we accustomed to democracy? तो डेमोक्रेसी इम्पोज्ड है या प्रिफर्ड है? कैसे? It's a very interesting debate. Did you want democracy? Did you wanted democracy when you became independent? No. Where do you find the reference of that? We borrowed everything. Borrowing is not independently wanting something. कोई option नहीं है ना? See, first we were scared of colonial system. We were governed by it, right? So we said, okay, fine, we'll not have a colonial system. We'll not have a monarchical system. उसके पहले मुगल्स थे, सल्तनत पीरियड थे, फिर ये था. We don't want that, right? Do we want a ideal democratic system? No, we don't want. We want a democratic socialist system. So हमने कभी नहीं बोला कि हमें प्योर डेमोक्रेसी, आइडियल डेमोक्रेसी चाहिए. We said we want democratic socialist system. Even the word socialist was added later. But we preferred a particular form of democracy. Gandhi, right, preferred a grassroots democratic system. He wanted a kind of democracy where the power will not be with the union government, but with the local government. It's called inverted form of power system, right? Inversion of power. What is inversion of power? Power is not coming from there to here. It is going from here to there. Yes. So Article 40 of the Constitution, Directive Principle of State Policy, does not say that decentralization of power will take place. It says there should be inversion of power. But we modified it and used it. Fine. Nehru was of the opinion that we need socialism, which is called Nehruvian socialism. Now, socialism is not democracy. So neither Nehru wanted democracy, neither Gandhi wanted this kind of democracy. Right? Patel was in favor of a market-based economic system. Right? He didn't wanted the government's control over economic system. He was more liberal, neoliberal type person. जिसको आप ग्लोबलाइजेशन बोलते हैं आज, right? Same way they wanted this kind of economic model. And if he would have stayed, right? He died early, but if he would have stayed, he would have obviously focused on that. Right? Bhagat Singh was socialist, a revolutionary socialist. तो ऐसा कौन है जिसको डेमोक्रेसी चाहिए थी? See, now obviously the Britishers followed a kind of democratic system. And it became convenient for us because we were already being governed by their system. So it became easy for us to automatically transfer or shift into that model. Right? So see, democracy is a valued system, no doubt. It is a preferred system, right? But it's not necessary that democracy will have only one form. Right? And it may not be the most efficient system of governing. So many countries of the world have experimented with democracy also, different forms. Right? India is also one of that kind. You might have studied polity. You have studied polity. Parliamentary system, right? Parliamentary democracy. But that does not define the entire Indian democracy. उसके कुछ अपने unique traits हैं, right? But it's okay. We'll debate about it. But as of now, our focus is to understand democracy. Right? Now, democracy can have dominantly two forms, like we said, indirect and direct. Why we are using the word indirect and direct? In one, people take decisions themselves. In one, they take decisions through their representatives. Majority of the world follows the indirect democracy, right? Like indirect democracy, also known as representative democracy. So your representatives are selected. Now, Here also you will find you can keep writing if you want. Parliamentary. Parliamentary and presidential. Right? Now, come to this part. That's it. So we just now, we said there is a concept of state. Now, what is the nature of my state? What is the nature of political system we have, right? Or we desire? We can add several adjectives here: monarchical, democratic, dictatorial, socialist, capitalist, any form. Right? So let us say it depends upon how we have developed this system. Right? So in general, when we use the word state, it is a system of power, right? But this system of power comprises of three elements or three organs. So state is not a single entity. It comprises of three constituents, right? Components. Right. Why? Why should we have three components? Imagine a monarchy. Monarch has all the power. Monarch can create administration. Monarch can hire people. Monarch can appoint mantris, but ultimately it is the monarch who will have all the power. So to avoid such situations where power will be centralized and monopolized by a few people, we said, no, the actual idea of state, right, should be that its power, entire power, should be divided into different organs, into different systems, so that nobody can monopolize the power. So let's say it's simply like saying that in the family the power will be divided. There is power with the parents, but it's not with the father. It should be divided with the father, mother, and let's say even someone else, children. So let's say family has three components: father, mother, and children. Divide the power. Why? So that none of them can become absolute. So if I give all the power to one, someday it will become absolute. If I give them, they will become absolute. So anybody who gets the entire power has the tendency to become absolute. Once you are absolute, it will be very difficult to control you. Right? It will be very difficult for you to become answerable to the people. So see, the concept of state comes and the idea of separation of power comes. Okay, this is known as separation of power. This is a concept which says that state should be divided into three organs. Right? These three organs should be legislature, executive, and judicial. So this idea, right, or you can say this is a principle which should be followed, that the power of the state should be divided into three organs. Right? This principle is called separation of power. Who gave this concept? Right? American philosopher and academician. Right? Montesquieu. So Montesquieu, the American philosopher and academician, he gave the idea of separation of power, which is dividing the authority of the state into three organs. So do you think separation of state is a very adequate or appropriate strategy? Or you don't want AC? Okay. Fine. So it is. Do you think that it is an appropriate strategy to regulate the unnecessary misuse of power? Right? So see, if we divide, there will always be, or there will be less danger of misuse of authority. Right? इतना पहले समझ में आ रहा नहीं है. So there is a state, its power must be divided so that there is no misuse of power by one system. See, so they all work, right? They have certain functions and they have been given authority, right? So you see ideal condition, 1/3, right? 1/3 and technically 1/3. This is how it should be distributed. But it is not so, right? But think it that way. That in general, we should divide it this way. What is legislature doing? By state has to perform several functions. So what part of that state or what function of the state will be performed by legislature? Making law. When you say making law, means authorizing something. Anything that has to be done cannot be done without authorization, right? So if you authorize, ultimately, what do? You allow this function to be performed in the society. So legislature makes laws. What does executive do? Implements policies, makes policies. What is policy? Now you use the word every day. What is policy? Rules are law.
Framework to reach the certain objective.
Correct. What is the work of an ATM machine? ATM machine. Be very clear. Give money when called for, demanded, right? Obviously, but you need to put the ATM card. Right? What is the work of government? To give you goods and services. Right? So when you say what is the work of an ATM machine? To give money, to give cash, dispense cash, correct? Right? So same way, what is the work of the government? To make policy. Policy is the function of the government. Right? Policy word comes from the word politics. So what is the function of the government? Policy. Policy comes from the word politics. Technically, what does it mean? The role or whatever role government has to perform, it can perform only through a framework called policy. So you can understand this way, what is policy? The action and the decisions of the government are known as policies. So executive makes policy and this is called as government. So see, state is not government. Right? Government is part of state. So in common language, we use the word executive equal to government. So just like I said, dispensing cash, ATM, making policy, government. So see, decisions, actions of the government are known as policies. Okay, basically in Roman Republic, right? In Greek political theories, they started using the word polisia, right? Or polis. What is polis? Political system, power. So वहां से word policy आया, right? We use the word polis, political system, power, right? Polis and res publica. So they started using this term. Res publica basically means the public sphere, government's sphere. Making a road is government sphere. Making a soap maybe is private sector sphere. So they started using these terms, res publica and res priva. This was referred to private sphere and this was referred to public sphere. Right? For example, what you do in an individual life, it's your own sphere. Right? What private sector does, their sphere. Right? But whatever government does, whatever it does for collective benefit or interest, the res publica. So we started using the term polis, right? A territory, power, state, and from their word policy, right? So what the polis would do would be policy. It's coming from that idea. So policy is simply the government's decisions and actions, right? Now these policies are intended to achieve long-term goals or goods and services for the society. How they will do it? Right? Obviously, they require authorization. They will do it in a legal manner, not in an illegal manner. Right? So to achieve these goals, right, government, which is comprising of politicians, ministers, the government uses or creates, right, another system under it. This is called administration. So see, this executive consists of two parts. One, the government, which is ministers, politicians. Other, the civil servants or public servants or bureaucrats that you want to become, known as administration. That means, can I simplify and divide that this is political, right? And this is official. So executive is part of state, which is called government, right? It also creates another system to assist and help it called administration. So executive comprises of what? Both the political part and the official part. Why we call it official? Because they are officials. They are appointed by an examination. They are recruited through a system, right? They don't get elected. So can I say political or elected? Official or recruited? Now see, you want to be here. So you want to be an official or a recruited part of the system, and you are administration. So the system which is hired or created by the government to perform its functions, right? And it works as per the laws, rules, regulation created by the parliament. This system is called public administration. This is what your domain of study is, public administration. Public here will mean government. So government administration is public administration. Right? Now it is a very complex system. It is not that simple as it is depicted here. Right? So one organ makes laws, other makes policies, implements these policies. What does this organ do? What does it do? See, the idea is that because they have to implement and make things, okay, they need power. They already have power, right? But because they are the ones who are doing it, so they are in interaction with the people because they are doing it. Right? They are making law, but they are not doing it. They are authorizing them, right? But these people are doing it, implementing it. These people are also not doing it, right? They're just monitoring it. See? So let us say your driver is driving and you are sitting behind, and there's an accident. Who should be blamed? Driver, right? But while he was committing that accident, what were you doing? You were sleeping, you were tired. You did not bother to find out. You were talking to someone on phone, watching reels. What were you doing? Now see, obviously there are two concepts. One, immediate responsibility, driver. Ultimate responsibility, owner. But when the moment they note down the number of the car belongs to you. So see, logically, to understand this way, those who are doing it, right, they automatically or sometimes they will always be leading to some accidents. They will hit people. They will misuse power, right? They can maximize their interest and not the interest of people. They may be corrupt. because they have power. And you have given them power that use it for the benefit of society, right? But because it's not necessary that they work only for the interest of people, they can work for their own interest. So, see, the system which is involved in doing, interacting with the people, that system always has tendency to misuse the power. Because, see, directly they are impacting the society. So they can do it for the society, they can also do it for themselves. That is the idea that, okay, see, people who are doing it, implementing it, when they have power, they also develop a tendency to misuse this power. So what is to be done now? They have authorized them, they have started using it, they hired them, right? They are monitoring them, but they cannot monitor everything. Like I said, you are sleeping and the driver hits someone. So it is quite possible that this government is doing so many functions and it has given responsibility of implementing it to administration. Administration is not doing the way it was decided. So they have to be monitored. In case they are not able to monitor effectively, then what? Right? Then this is judiciary. So generally, judiciary has been created to come into the picture when these organs misuse the authority. So this system is designed, separation of power is an idea which says nobody can monopolize the power. Nobody should misuse the power. And in case that happens, there will be a system permanently dedicated to monitor and supervise those who can misuse this power. Right? Now you understand that why this is very important. So it creates a balance, right? It creates a check on these two organs. Okay, this is known as system of checks and balances. So it is able to bring this to equilibrium, right? You are using excessive authority, you are not given this authority, right? So we will now control you. So judiciary's purpose is to monitor those who are in power. Now this is a basic concept of state. Now, so see, these three organs, they are separated in terms of function and authority, right? Now come back here. So what happens now? See, this is the actual idea that we'll create a state. The state will have these three organs, right? And they will be managed in this manner. Right? Now come here. Parliamentary system of democracy. There also a state is there, which is called a democratic state, right? Here also a state is there, which is called democratic state. But what is the difference? In parliamentary system, right, we believe that these and these two, right, they are not strictly separated. Right? You understand this point it's very important point. In parliamentary system, this and this is not strictly separated. There is overlapping between them and them. This is called parliament, right? But this somewhere influences, intervenes, impacts this. Otherwise, in a strict sense or strict separation of power model, they should not influence, even if they can monitor and control each other, right? But they should not encroach, right? They should not encroach. They should not obstruct. They should not manipulate the functioning of each other. That is the idea, right? But in a parliamentary system, this doesn't happen. In fact, if you want to understand, in a parliamentary system, the situation is most likely, right, like this. So if this is legislature, this is somewhere the executive is coming from, originating from, emerging from, is born from the legislature. That is called parliamentary system. You see, in India, The ministers first become MPs. The ministers first become MLAs, right? Then they become ministers. Only there is a small provision which says that, okay, even if you're not an MP or MLA, you can be a minister, but only for 6 months or maximum 6 months. That is an exception. But what is the general system? The general system is that the legislature actually creates the executive. Prime Minister sits in the parliament, he can, right? He belongs to the parliament technically, Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. President in parliament system we have or not? कुछ प्रेसिडेंट कौन है ये पता है कि नहीं? It's okay, you'll understand, don't worry. But as of now, at least you know this person, president. So we use the word president in parliament, India में. Now, president is actually known as the executive. So in India, the president in parliament system is followed. President is also part of the parliament. Right? He summons the houses of parliament. Right? Presidential speech is given in the parliament, first session. Right? Then, likewise, every year, right? The first session, the initial speech is by the president. Every time a new government is elected, new government is formed, right? So president addresses the joint houses. See? So president has lot of roles with respect to legislature. Every bill which is passed by the parliament is actually authorized by the president. So a bill becomes an act only when president approves. See? So we have two persons, president and prime minister. Right? Prime minister is also part of parliament, and somewhere president is also part of. That is why we say president in parliament. Now see, as per this logic, the executive should not be part of this separation of power if it is strictly followed. But we don't follow strict separation of power. That is why we say we are parliamentary system. So in a parliamentary system, you will find overlapping between, right? First citizen, correct. So in parliamentary system, we see there is an overlapping between legislature and executive. See, so does it follow strict separation of power? No. That is the big difference between parliamentary system and presidential system. In presidential system, the executive is relatively isolated from legislature. The US president need not have to convey everything to the US parliament. Right? He is not at the mercy of the US parliament for many of the decisions he has to make. But in India, it is not like that. Women reservation करना है, parliament pass करेगा. Budget बनाना है, parliament pass करेगा. See, any law has to be authorized, parliament will be passed. Any bill has to be presented, parliament has to. Money needs approval, parliament will pass. So majority of the functions performed by the executive should be approved by the legislature, right? It is mandatory for them to sit in the legislature. They have to answer the questions asked by the parliamentarians, committees of the parliament. Now see, there are a lot of functions or lot of obligations they have towards the legislature. So see, in this model, which we follow, which we have borrowed from the British model, right? There is no strict separation of power. In the presidential model, this relationship is totally different. Right? Executive, legislature, judiciary. They are all doing their work, right, separately. Probably the point of interactions are very limited. In Indian context, yes, judiciary enjoys relatively much autonomy compared to legislature and executive. But now the situation has changed more, right? We'll talk about it. But see, this is a very basic understanding that there are two forms, presidential, parliamentary. In presidential, there is strict separation of power. In parliamentary, there is no strict separation of power. This much you have understood? यहाँ पे strict है, वहाँ पे नहीं है. Fine. Now see, India ने कहाँ से borrow किया this model? Correct. What is it called? Correct. Tell me, what is it called? Anybody can tell. Okay, this is called Westminster model, borrowed from the British. Westminster is the place, right? Seat of power of the British government. That is why we say it's Westminster's model, right? So we have borrowed it from them, and that is why probably our system seems to be very closer to Britain or UK, right? So when we say state, we are democratic, right? We follow a parliamentary form of government where there is no strict separation of power. Presidential, democratic, but strict separation of power. Fine. Now this will have all have impact on the kind of administrative system we have, right? Now, ये basic clear है. आगे बढ़ सकते हैं. Fine. You have any doubt here? No. See. So when we understand state, government, or executive, legislature, judiciary, right? We use the term executive. Executive is political part comprising of ministers, prime minister, right? What does executive do? Makes policies, right? What is policy? The function of the government, decisions and actions of the government. Who implements this policy? Now let's focus on this. So executive called government. Now government hires administration, right? This makes policies. This implements policies. First, very basic understanding, government administration, right? Government elected, administration recruited. They are elected every 5 years or 4 years. For example, in US, right? Westminster system, correct. Okay, so they are elected, they are recruited. Now they are elected for 5 years, after which again re-election is required. Whereas they are recruited for how many years? 25, 30, 35 years, right? So can we say they are permanent? They are temporary. So they are called permanent executives and they are called temporary executives. So our subject focuses on the permanent executives. Those who are there, right, for almost 25, 30, 40 years, right? So why they are called permanent? Because they are for a long time or there is some other reason. They don't need to be re-recruited. Once recruited, they are in the system for a definite period of time. This means right, they enjoy security of tenure, whereas they don't enjoy security of tenure. That is more important. That is why we call them permanent, not just because they are there for 20 years, 30 years, that's okay, but because they enjoy security of tenure. You cannot remove them unless obviously there are some conditions which have been violated. If they are, then only you can remove them, otherwise you cannot remove them. So they enjoy a secure tenure. So administration, right, is a system which is hired by the government. When I'm using the word hired, what does it mean? We are recruiting people because we want them to work for us. Right? So power is divided into legislature, executive, judiciary. Executive is government. Government hires people So who has the ultimate power? Government, not the administration. Right? That is why we wanted to understand कि भाई there is a boundary, there is a context, right, within which the administration will work. So you are hired, you are recruited by the government to work for people, right, or to perform the functions which they are deciding. Right? So obviously the administration has somewhere borrowed, right, or it has just acquired the authority to implement things from government. It does not own the authority. You understand? This is a very important criteria. The administration only, right, borrows or acquires, but it does not owns the authority. So the power which the administration enjoys, it is a power which has been temporarily given by the government to the administration. It's not a permanent power. Now don't be confused. We said they are permanent because they are secure. But what kind of power they enjoy? The power is not permanent. That is why ministry can control them. That is why government can suspend them. Government can remove them. Government can transfer them. See? So many of their functions or activities are controlled by the government. How? Because government controls them through the ultimate power it has. And it only gives a part of the power to them that go, perform this function, come back, right? Hanumanji, burn the Lanka, come back, right? So logically, they are like that. They are just given the authority to perform things. Once they do it, right, then they are retired and they are sent out. So government owns the authority, right? Administration.
Government also gets temporary power from people.
But see, not the government, right? Only the prime minister and the MPs and the MLAs. So when they go, new one comes. Government remains. Right? Government कभी खत्म होती है? Government खत्म नहीं होती है, right? Government position पे बैठने वाले खत्म होते हैं. System of government never goes away. Right? So when we say administration temporary nahi hai, you're right? But the power which administration exercises, that is temporary. Whenever the executive wants, it will take back this power. Right? Try to understand. Polity thoda bahut bhi padha hai? Nahi. You start studied polity. What are you studying in GS? Okay. See, understand this way. If there is state and state's power is divided, fine. So state's power is divided into these three organs. What does it mean? State divides itself into three parts. So original power belongs to state, right? And this original power is divided into three organs. So the original system comprises of executive, legislature, judiciary. अब administration क्या है? Original system नहीं है. Right? It's not directly part of the state. It is part of the state, right? But it is not one of the constituent elements of the state. It is not one of the organs of the state. It is only working on behalf of the state. So while you are not sitting in the car, your driver is the owner. He can do whatever he wants. See? So same way, when they have the authority, right? Now what they do? They say, okay, we have the power, 1/3 power. Let's hire someone to work for us. Okay, that is why we are saying it is temporary power. It's not that the system is temporary. Try to understand. But the power with which this system is working, that is subject to control of the executive. So who's the absolute owner? Executive. Right? Who may be day-to-day owner? Administration. But only for performing the functions which are given to them. See? So Prime Minister cannot become equal to collector. Right? Even if collector says, I represent the government in the district, but I am not the government. Why? I represent the government. So on behalf of government, that is different. Being the government is different. Understand? That is why you are government servant. you are not government. ये है डिफरेंस, ठीक है. इसलिए वी आर यूजिंग दैट टर्म कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन क्या है, एक सिस्टम है विच इज रिक्रूटेड क्रिएटेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट to perform its multiple functions, right? So see, so one thing becomes very clear, that we have something called public administration, which is a system created by the government to perform multiple functions, right? So is public administration part of the state? Yes. Is public administration state? No. Right? Is public administration hired by the government? Yes. But is public administration government? No. That is what you have to understand. So government and administration are two different entities, right? Though government owns the administration. Right. So many times you'll see ministers feel they own the public servant. That is incorrect. Government own करती है, minister नहीं. Prime Minister भी own नहीं करता है, government own करती है. What is government? All of them together, the system, not an individual, right? So see, but still, so public administration is that system, right? Now, if we have to understand or define it, so the simplest definition is government administration working for public interest. You understanding this? System working for people or citizens. So in any political system, the administration is the system which is hired, right, or recruited by the government to serve the needs of citizens or serve the public interest. That is called public administration. Are you understanding this? Now let's complicate it, right? Because now you have understood it, so we can go a little further now. See, so we are using the word public interest, right? Now you should write. So I've used the word public interest. Now it becomes interesting now. So public administration system hired or recruited by the government to serve public interest. What is public interest? So see, this is the primary function you have to perform, right? So you must know what it is, what you are going to do in the system. Correct. What are the needs? I want a Ferrari F50. So not whatever you want, right? Whatever is necessary. Welfare. Okay, let's have one more word. Now slowly you will enter into PubEd. Abhi to PubEd, abhi 0.10001% bhi nahi start hua. Once you enter into that, then you'll start enjoying, because practically you will see everything here, what is happening. And you don't have to think theoretically, abstract, kuch nahi. सब कुछ realistic है जो हो रहा है. Right? Several examples. We'll discuss so many things. You'll understand it. कि भाई whatever I'm reading every day, अच्छा, this is what theory is. Nothing is abstract. Everything is very clear cut. Public interest अभी बोला, किसने बोला welfare? Fine, accepted. What else? So somebody says public interest is welfare. Okay. Services and goods to fulfill the necessity of the population. Okay, fine. I am using something like essential needs. Okay. Upliftment. So should we use some word? Inclusion? Right? Resolving the disputes. Conflict resolution. Correct. What else? Development नहीं करना है. Raising the. अच्छा. Okay, let's say development, right? Raising the basic standard, you know a term for it? Entitlements. Anything else government has to do? ये सब कैसे होगा? Right? You'll start begging the God, kindly shower upon us the gold coins, right? So that we can perform these functions. So government has to earn money also, no? How will you do all this, right? So somewhere you need something else. What? Resources. सो गवर्नमेंट को भाई टैक्सेस भी कलेक्ट करने होंगे, दैट इज ऑल्सो फंक्शन, राइट? Collect tax and then include people, provide essential services, this. Then justice, nobody said. What about protection of weak, protection of vulnerable minorities, women? ये भी तो चाहिए भाई, right? Justice भी चाहिए. See, now moment you think of the role of the government, most of you have highlighted, right? Different, or multiple functions which government performs. Can all this collectively be called public interest? Can it be called? Yes. Right? So public interest is what? Is it a one term? Is it a one definition? No. It is a complex, right, or umbrella term. It includes many things. So it's an umbrella term which signifies variety of functions or variety of services, functions, or what you can say, duties which the state or government performs to fulfill the public interest or fulfill the needs, demands, utilities, whatever of the society. So can I say one word, right? Satisfaction of society. Will it be a correct word? Needs of society. आप सिर्फ नीड के लिए काम करते हो? Do you work only for need? Right? Then you should apply for a very normal job. Huh? And obviously you can fulfill the needs of your family to an extent. You're not working for need. Need is the basic requirement. So public interest क्या है? See now, let us imagine you are born in America, in a developed country. Right? How will you define public interest there? Empowerment, correct? Right, Nikita? So one more word comes, empowerment now. ये भी चाहिए. So you're born in America now. How do you visualize what is public interest? You already have so many things. Literacy is there, education you have, right? Your basic needs are fulfilled. Survival आपके पास है भाई, right? State sponsors your survival if you're not employed. Netherlands, you know, you get one of the highest payments if you are unemployed. बहुत सारे इंडियंस अभी शिफ्ट हो जाएंगे पता चल गया तो. They will reverse the policy. Right? So many of the Nordic countries. What are Nordic countries? दुनिया में most developed, most happy, right? Sorry, most developed, most happy, right? With highly progressive culture, Nordic countries. Highest in the Human Development Index. Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Luxembourg, and likewise. But we use a reference of Nordic countries. There are more countries in that. But this represents one of the most developed, most evolved, most happy, right? Probably most mentally healthy countries of the world. Good infrastructure. Everything, right? So if, let's say, you say ki bhai, I have, my interest is basic needs, not required there. Right? Your basic needs, your survival, your education, even your employment is secured by the government. And most of them are carbon-free countries now. Almost zero pollution, they are focusing on that. Right? Many of these countries, including France, their majority of power energy requirements are either through solar or through nuclear. You can directly drink tap water there. Right? Here, if you have to commit suicide, then you can drink directly tap water. People don't have to look for cyanide here. Directly जाके municipal corporation का पानी पियो. So ये देखो, different. Now see, when you say essential utilities, basic needs, right? For them, it is not true, right? They require qualitative development in life. See? We require more of quantitative development in life. See, आपने जो भी ज्यादातर चीजें बोली हैं, mostly quantitative ही है. You have written most of the things just for the security of your life. This is the change perception. So if you're born in UK or US or let's say a developed country, and where you have experienced your basic amenities are fulfilled already, your urge would be for qualitative development. So there, public interest will be more qualitative. Here, public interest would be more quantitative. If we fulfill ours or we get our stomach filled, we feel government has done a lot of work. See, all the people are voting no because in COVID they got those free ration, 500 in the account, right? They are still dying for free electricity and free water. They don't think that they can earn and pay the bill, right? But they are thinking why to earn more when we have free electricity and free water. See, reverse psychology. So public interest is not a universal idea, first of all. It does not have a single definition, right? But it is both qualitative and quantitative. So no doubt, every society demands or every government needs to fulfill the public interest of its society, right? But for every society, yes, the criteria, the content, the features of public interest would be different. Yes, no doubt, every society needs public interest. No doubt about it, right? But nature and substance of this public interest, right, would be different. Goods and services would be different. Priority would be different. See, in America, people are fighting mostly over trademarks, patents, copyright, intellectual property right. A lot of disputes are regarding that. In India, you go to the courts, you'll find a lot of disputes are regarding what? Correct. Land, Batwara, inheritance, fight between brothers, this, right? Somebody has encroached upon my 5 feet of land. They have filed cases on that also. So even that will also depict you, कि भाई उस society में what is the need, and in this society what is the need. See, so very important idea comes that the public interest is what public administration has to do. So our system or any system that we design or government creates is to ultimately serve the public interest, right? But how to know what is public interest? Then probably it will be easy for us to understand various philosophies to understand public interest. So public interest is not a defined criteria, right? But no doubt, the basic assumption, the basic logic behind public interest is what? That, okay, just 1 second, what happened to this? Right, is that somewhere every society needs to fulfill the public interest. And as per the needs or as per the demands, as per the level of evolution of a society, the nature of public interest or the content to be delivered, the goods to be delivered, they will change. So public interest needed in US also, public interest needed in India also, but the nature of goods and services will change there, they will change here. Criteria can be same, right? Like, let's say, public interest should also guarantee something called equality. Now you've talked about, sir, this is public interest. Now I'm asking you, what should be the basis of serving this? You want to give goods and services to everyone. How will you identify who should get more, who should get less? How will you identify who needs first, who needs last? ये कैसे पता चलेगा? Correct. Okay, one is economic basis. But are you getting this point, what I'm saying? One, we talked about what are the aspects of public interest, right? But other aspect is how are we going to deliver this? What will be the basis of doing this public interest? क्या होगा? What should be the criteria? Who should be given first? Everybody will say I should be given first.
The most vulnerable will be given first.
See,
Most vulnerable.
let us say a background, a person coming from a poor background, right? Poor background means not that poor, but okay, average background. A person coming from, let's say, a bureaucracy, background of bureaucracy, father is bureaucrat, right? And one person coming, his father is a farmer. But he also earns okay, right? Not very much, but yes, survives well. Who has better claim over civil services? Whose claim is more justified? That means nobody's, right? Or claims of both are justified, provided they follow certain things. Who is working hard, right? Hard work is done by that rickshawala every day. A lot of hard work he does, right? Too much of physical labor. Will he deserve that seat? You missed another point. Merit be a criteria, not just effort, right? Labor is inevitable. Hard work तो करना ही पड़ेगा. But hard work से capability, merit, understanding, right? Many factors will influence this. But let us say now the person coming from bureaucratic background, he says, see, I have lived my life this way. I've enjoyed all these benefits, right? If I don't get through, my life will be ruined because I am accustomed to living in this manner. And he tells the son of the farmer, see, you can live anywhere. Right? You have almost lived throughout your life in a particular way. Right? It doesn't matter if you don't get into civil services. Right? But I am accustomed to that living. I have more claim or better claim than you on the civil services. Will it be justified? Why not? Why not? When you say, my father was poor, it is justified. You are not poor, let's say. Many people claim, enhance their merit just by saying, my father was poor. And then I became IAS. Right? अब rich और poor कोई background तो है नहीं IAS बनने के लिए. Criteria भी नहीं है. If you had access to education, yes, probably your preparation would have been little tougher, no doubt. But it does not create a hindrance in you becoming civil servant. Anyone. So let's say a person says, because I am accustomed, it is very difficult for me to live that way, so I have a claim. Not correct, illogical. You're right. Illogical. Civil services is not about seeking comfortable life. That is not the criteria. Why should you have claim? Fine. If you want a comfortable life, you can live through other means. Go and do something else and have that life. Right? So see, whether you are coming from a particular background, whether you are needy of something, whether you are accustomed to something, whether you are what you can say deserving of something, right? All these factors will be counted when the public interest will be served. See, if you say vaccines are needed only by poor and not by rich, how illogical is that? Everybody needs vaccine, right? Highways. Lalu Prasad was asked long back, right, that why you are not making these roads proper. He said every state is now making such good state highways. They have very good roads. But why Bihar is not investing a lot of money on roads? So he asked the farmers, why do you need roads? Do you have cars? He said, we don't have cars. Then why do you need roads? Let the car wala come and experience the gaddas. Right? So if you don't have to drive the car, why do you need the road? Don't need the road. Now see, there is a very strong anti-middle class, anti-elite, right? Anti-higher class wave of politics in this country. The entire Dalit mobilization has taken place on that ground only. It was not about emancipation of Dalits, right? It was about revenge. It was about what you can say paying the cost from those who were in the caste hierarchy, higher in the caste hierarchy. So majority of these politics, regional politics, they emerge because of vendetta, revenge, anger, not for constructive politics. That is why you'll find the decline of these parties. So if you see the criteria of public interest, right, is guided by what? When you see free water, just now we said everybody should be accommodated. Okay, that is public interest. But you see what happens in countries like India or in many of the developing countries. The public interest is defined as per the will of the voters, as per the dominance of the voters, as per the dominance of the vote bank. होता कि नहीं होता भाई लोगों ने बोला सी हमें ये चाहिए, right? Now government feels that this is the right time to identify this in the manifesto and we live in this election. So majority of the goods, services, schemes are designed for what? For getting votes. In that way, most of these schemes or services are designed in terms of what people want or what majority people want, not necessarily what people want. So public interest suffers from politics, suffers from this bargaining, right? Vote bank politics, electoral process, and so many things. So in any democracy of the world, whether it is developed or developing, doesn't matter. Donald Trump superseded Hillary Clinton on what ground? What was the agenda that he won the election? See, he started this particular debate, right? Outsiders and insiders. Visa restrictions from outsiders. Locals, employment to the locals, to the natives, and like he started this idea. See, a developed country like US is acting like a normal state of India, where people are demanding the jobs for people of that particular state. So any country of the world which is democratic, where people have lot of freedom to exercise their opinion, you will find that government taking most of these initiatives are not based on any of the criteria we talked about, right? Neither it is need, nor it is demand, nor it is inclusion, nor it is justice. Okay, these criteria are not followed. What is followed? What suits the politics. So most of the countries in the world, they do not provide goods and services based on any logical criteria. They create programs, they design schemes based on, yes, on vote bank politics. So now this poses a big problem, that government decides public interest as per voters' preference, as per vote bank politics, right? One government comes, the public interest changes. Other government comes, the public interest changes, right? But this is not how the system should work, right? So we should have a defined knowledge that we can use. So scholars are not politicians, right? So see, scholars of public administration, those people who contributed to the study of public administration, they said, okay, but there is a particular way to understand what is public interest. We need to develop some principles, some basis on which we can define what is public interest. And this basis can be used by the governments, they can be used by the administration, they can be used by different countries, right, to develop their own package of public interest. Right? India wants to develop, do something, let it do it. But what is the criteria? They should have some criteria, they should have some basis on which they will serve this public. So they developed certain philosophies, right? So you give this heading, you write few things here, because pub ad without public interest cannot be understood. So you give a heading, public interest. This you must remember, you can use it at many places. And GS, ethics, wherever, pub ad. So many places you'll encounter this term, public interest, public interest. Right, public interest, right. Okay. The primary purpose, the primary purpose or function of public administration, function of public administration is to serve, sorry, the public interest. Public interest. Public interest is public interest is an umbrella term. Public interest is an umbrella term which includes multiple dimensions. Multiple dimensions, comma, characteristics, and features. There is no single way, characteristics and features. There is no single way of defining public interest. PI you can write. Single way of defining public interest. In fact, it may differ. In fact, it may differ substantially. It may differ substantially between different societies. Different societies. For example, developed versus developing. Or urban versus rural. यहाँ तक clear है? Fine. Next, then लिखिए. Right. Take another paragraph now below this. In fact, most of the developing countries like India, India have focused mostly on survival and essential needs. Mostly on survival and essential needs of the population. Needs of the population. You have an example? Essential needs of the population. So, keep writing. So, for us, public interest may actually refer to actually refer to providing essential goods and services, providing essential goods and services to the citizens. For example, you have Narega, MG Narega, Mahatma Gandhi PDF, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. What is this law about? Right. Correct. क्या है? Government provides 100 days mandatory when demanded. So every member of a household who is able-bodied and willing to work, and that is what the law says, able-bodied and willing to work, can demand 100 days mandatory employment from the government. Obviously, these 100 days mandatory in a year would mean what? Survival. It is not a qualitative change. It is only a quantitative input so that they are able to survive. Okay? So, programs like Narega or, for example, you said PDS, Public Distribution System, they have mainly created for focusing on survival of people. There was a very famous program in 1980s, Integrated Rural Development Program, IRDP. What was the focus of that program? What is the focus of this program, midday meal scheme? Providing? See, there was no aspect of nutrition in that. Now they had added the aspect of nutrition on the recommendation of many scholars, many people, Niti Aayog and likewise. So they never focus on nutrition. Children would come, have food, or food will be the biggest attraction for them to come to the school, right? And what kind of food they were providing? Very basic food. No protein, no nourishment. You know, India is one of the most, or one of the countries suffering most from the hidden hunger. And what is hidden hunger? क्या है hidden hunger? Not the politicians wala. Malnutrition, correct. Lack of nourishment. Stunting. India has one of the highest rates of stunting. So, see, we are a country suffering. Now, obviously, they are trying to overcome. Fine, but obviously, you should not trust all the data given. In reality, right, majority of the people are still suffering from this hidden hunger. So, we have designed so many programs, keeping only the focus that हमारे यहाँ interest क्या है, how public interest can be served. Okay, provide them chawal, dal, roti. That is public interest. See. Poverty alleviation programs focusing on basic calorie requirement. How many calories are needed? 2400. Rural is 4.
But we have changed the pattern. First we used to use calendar basis and for
2400, right? But what is 2400 for Ankit, Aniket? Fine. Obviously, calorie requirement, right? That is the basic criteria. Calorie requirement means food. So, will you be able to buy food worth 2400 calories per day, which is the minimum requirement of your body to survive? Obviously, in rural areas, you have to do a lot of physical work. In urban area, you don't do that much of physical work, so it is accounted for. But see, what is government's criteria? Simple. कि calorie fulfill होना चाहिए, right? $1.47 per day, right? Yeah, $1.25 index to inflation and all, $1.5, let's say, average, then you will be above poverty. This is a very important aspect to understand. See, PubAd, like I said, it is like the masala movie, right? It has everything. ड्रामा, गाना है, थोड़ा सा इमोशनल स्क्रिप्ट भी है, राइट, फाइटिंग भी है, ये भी है, वो भी है, सब कुछ है. So PubAd student has to automatically become, or he automatically becomes a very strong in the areas of general studies. Automatically, he doesn't have to do anything. He just has to think. So see, in developing societies, the public interest has been always evaluated or defined in a very mediocre manner, because that was the main requirement. 70-80% population is dying of hunger. Obviously, what do you focus on? Eliminating the hunger, overcoming the poverty. So there was no question of quality. There has always been a question of quantity, right? But unlike that, in developing countries, obviously we are focusing more on qualitative development. Now they talk about human rights, and since last 60 years they are talking about human rights. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, United Nations, 1947. Right? Sorry, 1945. So Universal Declaration of Human Rights comes, and Universal Declaration of Human Rights talks about this. Obviously, this was unheard of in India. Even if your constitution says justice, but where it was visible, it was not. Even today, it is not visible. Government is bringing change in the IPC, CRPC, all these things, right? It's not modifying the Indian Police Act, 1861. Why it is not modifying it? Right? The power, the police will lose its power. Once police loses the power, the government loses the control over society. So we are still in that phase where we are not much focused upon qualitative developments, right? We are doing progress in education, health, technology, everywhere. But the benefit of all these developments are taken only by a meager 20-30%. Urban population कितना इंडिया में? You are urban. You agree that you are urban? What is the criteria of being urban? Anybody who knows about urbanization and problems of Indian urbanization must have read about urban population. Have you read it? No. Nobody. Newspaper, anywhere you've read it? Rural. Okay. See, census says, census 2011, we are 31% urban. Right? In our classes, we use excessively data, logic, analysis, facts, right? And overall understanding. So kindly keep using it. And this is how you will be. It's not one day or one time process that you just go, complete your class, take the notes, and right? Constant evolution. You'll give exam 2024 or 2025. You never know. Right? Your preparation should also always be updated to that level. Right? That's why I said when you refer to your notes, you give exam for the next 5-7 years, it doesn't matter. Your notes will always be used. Right? That is how the methodology we use. So you should always have, right, inclination towards knowing data. Essential for your GS paper and essential for your PubMed paper also. Even in essay, if you have to convey something, you should know data. Right? How can you say India is progressing if you don't have any data? Right? So kindly start using it. Right? Census 31%. Right? UNPF क्या है? United Nations Population Fund. Right? It's an entity of the United Nations, which generally deals with the demographic changes, population changes throughout the world. Right? It is saying that no, the overall urban population in India somewhere is around 40% and more, because they are not including those areas, or we have not included those areas which are in transition from rural to urban, जहाँ पे सारे टिकटॉक वीडियोस बनते हैं इंडिया के. Okay, that is the transitional area. Fine. Entire TikTok commerce is working from there. Right. So see, you have 40% urban population almost. So majority of the benefits that you are talking about, right? Technology, science, 5G, infrastructure, highways, right? Premier institutions, they mostly are accessible to this population. So still 60% of the population, right, may not have direct access to these benefits. So public interest, right, means lot of diverse things. Out of that, right, majority of the things which are given or provided in the developing countries is mostly quantitative. Health भी quantitative है, right? India में focus क्या है? Coverage, not the quality of coverage. See? So most of the policies, programs in India, right, they suffer from U without Q. Right? So policies and programs suffer from U without Q. Universalization without quality. Increasing coverage numbers, but lacking quality. Right now, so. But obviously, when you look at the developing countries, developed countries, right, obviously more economically advanced countries or who are educationally more advanced, they focus more on qualitative aspects. It does not mean they don't have quantitative needs. They also have, right? But their overall quantitative needs have reduced. So public interest in our context क्या होगा? Variety of goods and services, functions which the government performs, but mostly to satisfy the quantitative needs of society, right? More quantitative, less qualitative. Right? Though we should change it. I'm not saying that we are not doing it. We are trying to do it. So we should change it eventually. But as of now, we can't do it. Now you continue.
Sir, like Americans and British history have gone through that stage of development where they used to focus on quantitative. And now they realize that quality and quantitative both should manage, and they have overcome the stages.
Yes.
And according to their society, their priorities are different. So for a country like India, we are going.
But you see, try to understand, our population policy field, right? We have done a lot of things in 75 years, probably more than them, right? But the focus of, overall focus of the government and politics in this country, right, doesn't change. In spite of 75, 80 years, it does not mean if they took 200 years, we will also take 200 years. So whenever you see agendas of the politics, of the governments, right, or party manifestos, majority of these agendas are focusing on very narrow interests. Right? No doubt, the government may have its own priority, right? Every party has its own politics, but ultimately, जो ambition है governments का, right? Since 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, whatever we are doing today also, what is the focus? Right? Aam Aadmi's party primary focus is on giving free utilities. What does it mean? क्यों चाहिए free? Even if government has surplus funds, government should extend the services to other areas, no? Why are you giving free electricity in urban area?
That is the composition of our population only.
No. See, it is all political, what you can say, manipulation. Right? You cannot justify all these things in the same way it can be justified the imposition of 370 in Kashmir. So revoking 370 can also be justified, invoking 370 can also be justified. Right? Non-entry of women in temple can also be justified. See, so keeping such a big country and focusing on such a huge population, talking about so much of diversity, does not mean we cannot initiate these programs. Kerala initiated 100% literacy target, right? At least it was able to achieve it. Why can't same be replicated in other states? Kerala is a politically volatile state compared to many other states. Kerala had dominantly the communist governments. Right? Most of these parties, right, not Congress, I would say, but Congress also, or most of these BJP and many other parties, they all discard communist governments. Non-developmental, backward, this, they do not allow industrial development and this, right? But that is not what is visible. Majority of the money coming into Kerala is from the foreign remittances. They have a different model from Gujarat. Right? Gujarat is creating its resource from industrial model. Right? Kerala is from soft skills, nursing, technology, academics, education, tourism. Right? So you cannot say कि भाई ऐसा composition है. भाई वो population 90 crore, 80 crore से 140 crore कैसे हो गया? So we are not able to take such decisions which will bring qualitative changes. Why? Because we are always controlled by political agendas. So, see, people are happy to, okay, no, we'll have this now. While we'll make this statue, we'll make this building, we'll do this now, right? We'll become like this. Nobody's bothered that there should be a very qualitative transformation. Everybody wants government vacancies to increase. How? How will it increase? The government has to do more, perform more functions. Government is not performing more functions because it is privatizing most of the things. So when government will not perform most of the functions, then how will government recruit people? For what purpose? See? Now that is paradoxical. So businesses want to flourish. Private sector wants to grow. Right? Startup ecosystem should be created. Enterprises should be developed. And again, government services should be increased. Right? Civil services vacancy should be increased. अगर सीसेट टफ है तो भी एक मेथड हो सकता है गवर्नमेंट वांटेड टू डिस्करेज पीपल टू सिट फॉर सिविल सर्विसेज right government may be wanting people to go for some other jobs there are a lot of jobs they should go work well why they are coming for this that may also be a possibility you're saying it is anarchic UPSC is anarchic not necessarily it is trying to follow a mechanism ki bhai theek hai people who are not serious right? People who don't want to invest that much of time, probably people who are not suitable. Right? Respectfully, they should go out. You have to drawback. See, so logic is people demand so many things. Right? Majority controls the politics or outcomes of the elections. Majority is not religion. Here, majority is number. So the kind of democracy, kind of mechanism we follow, right? Majority or the population, dominant population can control the politics or political outcomes, electoral outcomes, and they shape the policy. There also this thing happens. I'm not saying, not denying, right? But see, their criteria of public interest is very different. Now these countries are also somewhere emerging. Why? Because of economic recession. America is facing severe unemployment. Because of that, even there also now, people have started moving towards public services, even though public services were considered to be the lowest form of service in that society. Unlike India, see, pyramid is reversed. Here we feel a bureaucrat is privileged position. There they feel it is one of the most uninnovative, non-creative positions in the system. Right? They don't respect, they don't value bureaucrats. Society values entrepreneurs there, academicians, researchers, scientists. यहाँ पे reverse है. So it's not about this or that. We are simply trying to say that, okay, yes, there can be distinction in the concept of public interest also depending upon nature of society or the level of social development. Fine. Right. Okay. On the other hand, right. On the other hand, developed societies may focus more on qualitative than quantitative goods and services. Goods and services. It is mainly because they are at a different stage. They are at a different stage of development. And majority of the basic needs, different stage of development, majority of the basic needs have been fulfilled. There are thousands of homeless people in New York. Right? New York also has one of the biggest slums in the world, along with Bombay or Mumbai. So it does not mean that they are not poor there also. Right? But see, their state is capable to a large extent to take care of them. वहाँ पे social relation और social community इतनी strong है. right? इंडिया में भी है सी. So we have langars, right? We have religious trusts, charities. They are all working together, right? But you see, their community feeling is so strong that they have developed community centers like that. Philanthropists have created a lot of systems like that. Government has visualized that these things are going to happen. Plus, obviously, population is much less. What is the population of America? 35 crore. Imagine, इतनी population तो इंडिया में किसकी है? यूपी, राजस्थान, right? टेक्निकली मिला दे तो ट्वाइस हो जाएगा अमेरिका. यूपी, राजस्थान, एमपी, 3-4 स्टेट्स को मिला दे तो. It is said that every year we add in Australia. The rate of population growth we have. Right? We have surpassed China. Right? At least we are better than China in something. Right? Population में ही है चलो. So logically, right, you can say that yes, there the resources are more, consumers are less, and so definitely qualitative improvement is okay, it can happen. For us, resources are less, consumers are very high. Fine, but still, see the nature of policies, programs, they mostly focus on qualitative developments. Right? Education has been a very strong tool of America. Technology has been a very strong tool in America. So most of these European and American countries, they started following the use of technology. Right? We were scared of using technology. Or obviously we did not have that much of money also. Fine. But we cannot say that we are backward. We are simply trying to say that politics has impacted the focus of public interest, right? So public interest may differ, but it is because an umbrella term, right? It's a very broad term. It includes variety of aspects, right? So scholars have tried to now define कि भाई public administration, a government system's primary role is public interest. So there should be some criteria, some basis to know whatever we are doing, is it in the public interest or not? For example, let's say government wants to make a dam. Public interest है? Dam. Public interest है, right? But because of the dam, lot of villagers will be moved. They will be uprooted from that place and they will be shifted to some other place, right? Now their interest will suffer. They might not directly benefit from this project also. Why will they pay the sacrifice for this project? But government says there's a law that you have to be moved, right? You need to be resettled, you will given compensation, everything. But they say, see, even if you are given compensation, we do not have that, what you can say, emotional attachment to this new place, right? We have emotional attachment to that place only. Our culture, our tradition, right? Our, let us say, religious symbols, many of these things, right? Memories are associated with this place. Who will compensate for this? So let's say government removes them, approves them, creates a dam, right? Now see, one interest undermines the other interest. Now how will government calculate, or how will government say that, okay, yes, it's okay? Whenever a public interest will be done, right, or when it will be implemented, there will be someone's interest which will be endangered, yeah, or sacrificed. Correct. So see, to understand this, many scholars provided the philosophies. They gave the principles that, okay, whenever you are doing some, making some decisions, implementing programs, you should use these criteria. Using this criteria, you can understand whatever you are doing is in the public interest or not. Whatever you are doing is ethical or not. See? They are known as philosophies or principles of public interest. You can write some. Right? It's a sub heading within the main heading, right? What you have written. Philosophies or principles. Right. Right. As okay, as public interest, as public interest is an abstract term, comma, difficult to define, we require certain principles, or we require certain principles or basis. Basis is one and basis is plural. We require certain basis, BASES, plural, right? Certain basis for evaluating the decisions, comma, policies, etc., whether they are in the public interest or not. Whether they are in the public interest or not. So there are certain philosophies or principles. Right? One of the important philosophy is known as intuitionism. Fine. Kindly write it. Intuitionism. Intuitionism. What is intuition? Now see what we are trying to say, that whenever a public servant or government makes a decision, implements the decision, right, provides goods and services, then in doing so, they should have a criteria. They should have a basis to evaluate whatever they are doing is in the public interest or not. Right? whether the decision qualifies to be called as a public interest or not. Okay, let's say government ने dam बनवाया, right? Now the damage caused by the dam is much more than the benefit created by it. Will it be public interest? So obviously we need some tool, right? Some basis to evaluate it. Okay, by who benefits? So majority of the times the government does create something. It uses a simple logic, qui bono. What is the meaning of qui bono? It says who benefits. Let's say who benefits, right? Let us say students protesting against CSAT. Who benefits? Or coachings? Fine. Engineers will say we don't want change. Right? People from technical mathematics background will say, oh, it's okay, we don't want change. It is good for them. Right? Now, 60% of the aspirants come from the humanities background. Oh no, 60% get selected. Right? Aspirants की बात हो रही है. So more than 60% aspirants are from the humanities background. 40% are from professional backgrounds. MBA, CA, MBBS, whatever. People coming from professional backgrounds, right, already have gone through some rigorous process. Right? Now even humanities people who are coming through CUET, right, they will definitely have some taste of that exam, competitive exam, right? So logically, people coming from that background, humanities background, may not be willing to have CSAT as a paper in the prelims. Right? Obviously, it will create a lot of burden on them, unnecessarily knowing certain things which they don't want to. Right? Engineers, professionals, they might feel it valuable, right? Because with less of effort, they can qualify in the papers, so that they can give actually more focus on general studies. That is the benefit they will have, advantage. Right? First, they know those areas more easily. They will have to put less effort, and they'll have more time for preparing GS. Whereas a normal humanities student will spend a lot of time on CSAT at the cost of the general studies. So for qualifying paper, they will be probably investing similar time as for the general studies paper, which is illogical. But why to make CSAT qualifying if we are investing almost 50% effort on that? So who benefits? See, even in this criteria also, right, we have to identify that who is the person, who is the group, what is the area, region which benefits from this. So government generally uses this criteria. Who benefits? Poor benefit? Fine, good. So when poor benefit from a policy or a decision, they say it is public interest. It is in the interest of people, in the interest of backwards, in the interest of poor, in the interest of this, 33% reservation, who benefits? Women, right? But eventually government benefits, right? Not the, technically the women. Why? Will you contest election? If you are given opportunity, will you contest elections? Why not? Then what is the use of this women reservation? Right? Ultimately, people from political background will contest elections. People from capitalist background will contest elections who have money, right? People who are not working, right? People who are coming from a particular type of family, they will contest elections. Even though, yes, some will benefit, no doubt. But overall benefit will be only of those who are capable of doing it. Right? So if we start using this criteria, right, we may have multiple results evaluating the same decision, same policy, same program. Narega kisko help karta? People say, government has created ambitious program like Narega. It doesn't matter to me. Right? It doesn't affect me. I'm more concerned about GST. Income tax, I'm more concerned about that, right? So you imagine the tax base in India is so less, most of the taxpayers are not getting the benefit they should have. This is a big debate going on, right? One nation, one tax, right? वो भी logical है. Why? The developed states will lose, underdeveloped states will benefit. See, so there are a lot of problems. Even if we use this criteria, government क्या करता है? Simply uses this criteria. Oh, it is for women, do it. Right? It is for minorities, can't do it. So logically, various principles are used. Why they are used? They are used to understand or help us understand whatever we are doing, is it correct or not? Whatever we are doing, can it be called as public interest or it is only the interest of few in the society? So public interest का sense क्या होगा? Which affects the larger population of the society. Fine? Maximum or at least to the maximum possible extent. 70%, 80%, 90%. भाई इतने लोगों को तो फायदा होना चाहिए. So that is why we are using this philosophies. So intuition or intuitionism, right? Try to understand. The moment I say Gandhi, Gandhi is a person. The moment I say Gandhism, right, it becomes an ideology. Right? So Gandhi, person. Gandhism, vichar. Anywhere if I add ism, right, that becomes a philosophy. So Modism, philosophy. Right? Kejriwalism, still not clear, right? But that is also a philosophy. So ये logical है. So wherever we add this, now intuition is what? Right. So one of the very basic philosophy is that what is public interest? Right? Who will benefit? How we should evaluate our decisions, programs, policies, right? So this intuitionism says, leave this evaluation to the public servant. The one who is implementing it, right? The one who is doing it directly, leave this evaluation to him. The government should not evaluate. We should not develop any criteria for it. Let the person who is doing it in that situation evaluate whether it is in the public interest or not. Understanding, it will take time to understand this. See, you are a collector and someone, right, based on conscience, correct? Not conscience is a bigger term, but yes. So let us say you are a collector, somebody comes to you, right, asking for pension. That lady does not have, it's a question in the UPSC, that lady did not have the document, but she is quite old, right? She cannot go back and come again. She has nobody to support her. Now, as a collector, obviously you may be moved by emotionally by this problem, fine? But because the rules don't allow you, right? There's no special rule mentioned, right, by which you can help someone out of the context. So if she comes to you and asks for the pension and says, basically, I've been running since long time, right? Today I got time to meet you. So kindly, right, provide me this pension or at least initiate the process because I cannot come again and again. And it is the only sole source of money for me. What will you do as a collector? Now see, there is no law which gives you this power. Fine? But there is no law which restricts you also this power. So you are neither restricted nor you are authorized. You are supposed to take decision as per your discretion. What you might find fit in a situation. A police officer who is writing the FIR, right, may delay writing the FIR. Right? On the ground that, okay, let's not write FIR outrightly, let's have some verification first that whatever this person is saying, is it true or not? So most of the things that we do which affect public interest or citizens' interest, right, or interest of groups, that to a large extent also depends upon the decision made by the person, the administration. And for that, they are given little amount of discretion. What is discretion? Flexibility, right? Autonomy to exercise this judgment. So government says people must be provided information under RTI, but you are given 1 month to give this information. What is that 1 month? Flexibility. 1 month is your autonomy, that okay, you can give within this 1 month. Why this autonomy is given? So that obviously you can plan and give this information. You have to look for the information. You have to search for the information, and likewise. And he's not the only person who is asking information. There are a lot of people who are asking. So in any situation, right, a bureaucrat, a public servant, people, public administrators have to think that whatever they are doing, whatever decision they are going to take, right, it may directly or indirectly affect groups, people, society at large, right? So should they do it or not do it? Now, so this philosophy says they should be given the choice. They should be given the freedom to act. If they feel whatever they are going to do affects the interest of society positively, they should do it. If they feel it doesn't affect it positively, they should not do it. So rather than minister telling them what to do, rather than rules telling them what to do, let them or give them the liberty to exercise this freedom. Is it a correct philosophy? Is it good or bad? Right? Good. Fine. You should be authorized to make decisions in a particular frame, right? And you should be able, you should have the ability to justify your decision, right? But imagine the collector is, or the people's person sitting on that post, they are corrupt people.
Then there is a regulating mechanism. You have the autonomy, but it is in a regulated manner.
That's correct. But see, meanwhile he makes the decision, then
They should be held accountable.
they will be made accountable ultimately, right? But see, giving them discretion to make, for example, now see, if I tell Cabinet Secretariat has the power, right? The NSA has the power. The Cabinet Secretary has the power to pull that nuclear weapon, to trigger that nuclear weapon. Then, so by the time Prime Minister comes and tells him, "Kare, bhai, kar diya kya usne kar diya." Thank you. Bhai, autonomy you cannot define, no? Ki bhai, you have autonomy for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. You are giving him autonomy. So intuitionism is a philosophy which said that when public servants are given power, authority, right, they should also be given discretion and autonomy to use that power. It is up to them how responsibly they can use it. That is why we are training them. Right? That is why they are studying so much. That is why, right, they are undergoing through this entire process. So we are appointing wise people. We are appointing intelligent people, ethical people to the system. And now, if these people are dedicated, loyal, committed to the work, they will exercise this discretion in public interest. So this philosophy believes in that manner or in that idea that people who are at the positions of power, if they are ethical and moral, they will not misuse power. Right? But this assumption is not totally correct. Right? It is too much to ask for from a human being, right, who has been given a lot of power. Right? So you are a treasury secretary, right? Finance secretary controlling the treasury, right? In the treasury, the entire money of the government of India is kept. Right? And now your friend calls you and tells you, "Arey, how 10-20 lakh nikal liya, kya ho jayega nikal?" You have the authority to do it. So what? We'll return it back. You know, this has happened many times in the government. People have used public money for personal benefit. Return that money. Right? Same thing Harshad Mehta did. See, uske piche pad gaya. So logically, see, government is the biggest gunda, no doubt. So intuitionism comes with this idea that discretion is of public servant, right? We'll write it, don't worry. First, you understood it? Fine. Second, there is another philosophy called perfectionism. You first understand it, everything will be written, don't worry. Perfectionism. Now, perfectionism says that society, right, or public interest in a society is the interest of only the elites. Only those who are capable, right, their interest should be served, and then we'll call it public interest. For example, only Tendulkars should be allowed to play in the cricket match. Now, this is a reverse philosophy. It is saying, what is public interest? Right? If you are developing a program, policy, you are doing anything, you evaluate it on the basis of perfectionism. That if this promotes the interest of meritocratic, right? The people who are capable, the people who are elites, the people who are rich, not just rich, right? But people who are capable, let's say. Then whatever you are doing is public interest. On this logic, the people or the royal families, the monarchies worked. On this logic, entire colonial system worked, right? On this logic, many of the developed countries, many of the monarchical rules today also they work. Even developed countries, many of them. See, most of the contracts are given to big companies. Why? We believe they are capable of doing it, right? We do not give opportunity to smaller companies in the beginning. So perfectionism is a very unique criteria. It says that there are few who are capable in the society. Give them opportunity, give them resources, they will lead the society. Once they lead the society, the benefits will go to the others also. Right? It is not saying don't serve the interest of others, but it is saying serve the interest of few. The few are capable and they will promote the society. Right? For example, only few can become scientists. Those who become scientists, now government should invest more resources on them and divert most of the resources to these people who are capable. So rather than giving subsidies, rather than giving waivers, okay, rather than giving loans to the poor, and likewise, they would say, give this to industrialists, give this to people who are capable, give this to people who can create startups, give them money. Don't give this money to them. See, in Indian banking system, there is a provision for primary sector lending. Primary sector lending. What is primary sector lending? Banks have to give or direct 40% of their loan, right, to primary sector, agricultural sector, rural development, and likewise. So that is called priority sector lending. Regional rural banks, they have to give or they have to work with self-help groups. What are self-help groups? Right? These are groups which provides small finances to poor households. Somebody needs 2,000, 1,500. So government, or you can say people create a self-help group model. People come together. They form a community, an organization. Right? This organization pools money amongst its members. And then government supports them. So there are 10 members, they are giving 100 rupees, now it becomes 1,000. Government says, we will also support you. We'll also give you 1,000 rupees. Now you have 2,000. Put this into bank account. Bank will give you additional loan on this money. See? So there are obviously various schemes, programs. What are they doing? They are working for the poor, right? But what will this say? This will say that no, there is no need to work for them. Direct all the resources to those who are capable. ये सही है गलत है सही भी है गलत but see parents are spending more money on the child who is more intelligent, is it or not? A patriarchal society is spending more money on male child on the belief that male child can obviously become their sahara, right? which he doesn't become, obviously. After marriage, he becomes Besahara himself. So now they are nurturing that child, male child. Patriarchal society क्या है? Perfectionism. Kings, queens, erstwhile nawabs, rajas. इंडिया में है प्रिवी पर्स था जो इंदिरा गांधी ने उसको एलिमिनेट किया, राइट? What was this? You know about it? Fine. Bank nationalization. She did a lot of things. Good things, no doubt. प्रिवी पर्स सुना है कभी? नहीं. हाँ, करेक्ट. किसको? Princely states or nawabs, whosoever, under the Britishers, okay, they were paid, right, even after independence, a defined contribution and amount, right, by the British, for which the British were taking money from India. How illogical that was. We were paying the British so that they can pay the Nawab. Or we were paying on behalf of the British, that you had promised them, so we will pay you. Elitism. Now see, IAS, अब see, इसको ऐसे मत देखो, just like in the broader perspective. Come to the narrow perspective. In civil services, IAS, right? The IAS enjoys most of the top positions of the government. Why? Elitism. Right? IPS, IAS conflict is mainly because of that. IPS, IAS, IRS conflict. Right? Nobody of you want to become Indian Postal Service officer, I know. Right? Unless you have no other option. Obviously, right? Who will want to become Danix or Danips? Very difficult, yes. Later on, it seems to be good. Right? But initially, nobody wants to become that. Who wants to get into Indian Railway Management Services? Indian Railway Traffic Services? Nobody. Everybody wants IAS, IPS, IRS, IFS course. Okay. Elitism. See? So everywhere you find elitism. School rewards people who come first. Right? People scoring 95%, their photos are put everywhere. From rank 1 to rank 110, everyone gets IAS, but you put rank of top 10. How does it matter to IAS? In fact, there should be no ranking system in civil services. Right? So as per their internal criteria, if they find these 100 people become IAS, they should simply write IAS. Khatam. Why rank? What does it mean? Nothing. Right? It's not a board exam. Why are you putting that rank? So see, right? Everywhere you will find this criteria. So this criteria was generally used in traditional societies. It is used today also in modern societies, no doubt, right? When people from specific groups, communities, they demand it is their right to have benefits of the society, right? They have more claim over them than others. Right? When Brahmins feel that they are the ones who should control the society, they can direct the society. When Kshatriyas feel they should be the only owners of the land in this country, right? Everything comes from this idea of elitism. So it is right that this is not totally bad, but it is not acceptable in the modern democratic societies. Right? Our societies are more fair, equitable. We are focusing on inclusive development. We want everyone to be part of this development. So this should not be accepted as a valid criteria, but it has always existed. Always existed. Utilitarianism. Have you heard this about it? And you just write it, then you can go, no problem. Right? Utilitarianism, right? But slowly and slowly you should be accustomed to the rigorous process of UPSC. Yeah? Dhire, dhire.
So for example, like just a very diplomatic question, but during the GST or demonetization, we like the rich class of our society were knowing about the process of demonetization. So is it the example of perfectionism?
Obviously, but see, perfectionism, but see, it was not deliberately done by the state. We are talking about any policy or decision or anything which comes from the system, right? How they knew about it, what happened to that process, that we are not very clear, right? But you're correct that yes, there are few who may control the rest. That happens in any society, right? But society, or you can say government, is not following that principle. The government तो principle follow नहीं कर रहा ना. So if the government follows this principle, then it will be called perfectionism as the basis of public interest, right? But governments doesn't follow, or governments follow, but only in parts. Giving licenses, giving so many things, it follows this principle, but only to a limited extent. Utilitarianism, have you heard of this? Right? So I'm just giving you one example, right? Let us say you order this, fine, and before that you called all your friends to make sure they are not coming to your room. You called all of them, everyone around you, अरे ठीक है मैं सोने जा रहा हूँ अभी नहीं पढ़ना है. Fine. So you made all the possible excuses, right? But you know, friends, how they smart they are, right? They were just talking to you outside your door. They were standing there talking to you and said, no, we are there, we are here, we are there. You go and sleep, right? And they see the pizza wala coming to your door. The moment you open the door to get the pizza, they enter your room. Yeah, we were just here. You opened the room, we just entered the room. Now this person was hungry, right? He ordered the pizza as per his own hunger. Right? Let's say medium pizza was ordered. So now there are 3 more friends who have joined him. If this person wants to divide this pizza, right, in the most fair manner, right, in the most just manner, so that all of his friends or none of his friends feel that they have been treated unequally, what will he do? There are 4 people. So what should he do? One by? Correct? He should divide it this way, right? Now, obviously, 2 of them had already eaten dinner. After that, also they are eating this. Fine. 2 of them have not eaten. Okay, you who ordered the pizza, and 1 more person he has not eaten. Right? But this 1 by 4 doesn't satisfy their hunger. What will they do now? They will order again. See, the process may keep going on. Fine. Rather than that, let's say 2 of your friends who have already eaten, now they are so honest that they say that, okay, fine, we are full, we don't want to eat. Now, what is the best way of distribution? Half. Now, see, when I change this distribution from this to this, I have satisfied the hunger, my hunger as well as my friends' hunger, and at the same time, others, right? Instead of giving them uselessly, superfluously, right? They have also been satisfied. Why? Because I offered them, but they denied it. So, utilitarianism deals generally with this, right? Not with this. Utilitarianism is a philosophy which says anything which is done whenever you are serving public interest, when you are making policy, right? When you are taking any action, then you must evaluate that whether this action satisfies, right, or creates the maximum benefit of maximum number or not. So see, this is not actually maximum benefit. This is a minimum benefit of maximum number. As the people will increase, the benefit will reduce. So either we create more benefit so that if we have more people, the benefit does not reduce. So utilitarianism is a philosophy which says maximum benefit to maximum number. What that number is, it is not defined. You have understood this much? So tomorrow we'll talk about, write about it, fine, think about it, and bring your some, or whatever newspaper you're reading, you bring some examples, right, where we can apply them. See you tomorrow then. भागो 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 पिज्जा खत्म हो जाएगा भागो